Okay, good morning. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Thursday, April 10th, 2025. It's just after 9 a.m. And we are continuing to gather information about what is happening or what we think might be happening with federal funds and what federal funds, agencies, and branches of government have. And so this morning, we're delighted to have with us Terry Corsones and Greg Mosley from the Judiciary Branch. And we really appreciate you responding to our request and doing it so quickly and coming to see us. So welcome. And if you want to introduce yourselves, we'll go from there.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Chair. And we appreciate the opportunity. And we're happy to, we're just next door. We're happy to come over anytime that we could be of help. I'm Terry Corsones, State Court Administrator, and this is Greg Mosley, who's the Chief of Finance and Administration at the Judiciary. And we've also asked for Scott Griffith, who's our Chief for Planning and Court Services, who oversees the treatment courts in case there are questions, because that comprises the bulk of our federal grants. And also Kim Owens, who's the statewide coordinator. And again, in case there's questions for particular, so they're available for that.
Great, we appreciate it. And we see that they're on, so that's wonderful.
Great.
Okay.
What we thought we would do in light of the memo that was sent on April 3rd that has the list of questions, I said, likely asked, would you like us to just kind of go through that list of questions, or did you prefer to ask us questions about the spreadsheet that I know you received?
Do you want to show us the spreadsheet, or we can, are you sharing, can you screen share or not? Maybe.
Need instructions on how to do that?
Oh, never mind. We all have it on our computer. We just have to make it bigger than 69% so we can read it. But, so if you want to look at it from your computer and talk less about it. Yes, you mentioned, Terry, that the treatment court sounds like that's where a lot of your, so sort of orient us to what your grants are about. And yeah, we can sort of go through the spreadsheet and then we can ask about other questions.
Great. I can give a broad overview, and then Greg was going to go through it basically line by line to make
Okay.
sure that you had that. As mentioned, the treatment courts, and we have adult drug treatment courts in Rutland County, Chittenden County,
Washington, Windsor.
I'm sorry, Washington County, and then Windsor, which is actually a DUI treatment, a docket that has a drug treatment track. There's also a family treatment court in the Chittenden unit. Those are our treatment courts, if you will, and those are the bulk of the grant funding. There's also a court improvement grant, and that has to do with the juvenile docket. So that would cover, for example, guardians ad litem and resources for child welfare matters. There's also a burn skip grant, which is our newest grant that is connected with our Mental Health and the Courts Commission. It's a grant that we applied for, and it funds a behavioral health project director, an admin, and then we have, I'm trying to see if any of people have been involved with the mental health and the courts. We have Representative Lalonde, for example, and Senator Lyons, and that are members, also Daisy Burbico. They're all
Members of what again?
the Mental Health and the Courts Commission.
Oh, okay.
Which is a new commission that started 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And it's a tri-branch effort to ensure that all three branches are working together to try to address persons with mental illness or mental health issues that are involved in the court system. So they've been involved with, for example, we do an annual summit in September at the State House, bringing together people from all over the state in those working in those areas. Department of Mental Health, there's a Department of Public Safety, there's a whole variety of legislative involvement and agency involvement. We're also doing regional workshops that bring together all those sources to make sure everybody's aware of what we're doing and not operating in silos. But the Burn Skip grant supports that. So that's kind of the focus for that. So I'm going to say treatment courts, the mental health in the courts, and then the juvenile court. Treatment courts including drug and DUI treatment. So that's what the federal grants, which comprise about 2% of our judiciary budget overall. It's not a large amount, but the federal grants are critical to the operation of those programs.
Okay.
And then Greg was going to just kind of one by one go through each to answer your specific questions about.
So looking at the template, we have 5 grants listed that are direct federal funding that comes to the judiciary, the Chittenden Family Treatment Court. There are state match requirements for each of one of these. They generally are salaried investment on the state level. I don't know if, I don't know if I need to go through each one, because Terry just spoke about what programs they do, but the entire amount is 1.5 million on an annual basis. Many of these grants are multi-year, which is only about 2%. And most of the operations that are funded are positions, either limited service positions or contracted. So, you know, with a notice, we can terminate that. And there are some operational costs, but you know, these programs are built the way you would expect grants to be, which is they can be terminated if the funding ends. The one thing that isn't on the spreadsheet that I wanted to take note of, and I provided a separate spreadsheet to the committee on interdepartmental transfers. I just wanted to mention that because there's one big interdepartmental transfer, and that's Title 4D child support.
Title 4D?
Title 4D, it's a federal title, and that's for child support hearings in our court houses. The federal dollars go to AHS or DCF.
Yeah.
And then we're a sub-recipient.
You're sub-recipient.
And so that's the biggest line item. It's a $2 million budgeted item. And if the federal funding were to be cut off to DCF, then of course it would impact us.
And so that you said it's 2 million?
It's $2 million a year. So it is larger than the combination of other grants.
Right.
And that bumps it from 2% of our budget to 4% of our budget, which is still a small percentage in the grand scheme of things when you're looking at some of the other departments, but
it's
not painless.
It's who you're impacting.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's,
Yeah, the juvenile docket, persons with mental illness in the courts, and treatment court participants.
Do you have a sense of how many Vermonters are, you know, sort of recipients of the help that sort of use the grants with? How many people go through these?
Scott.
Do you have any idea? Just round ballpark?
Well, in terms of persons who are presently participating, and I see Scott Griffith there in the treatment courts, I'm going to say 100 people are on average week to week active participants in the treatment courts. In terms of the juvenile system, I don't have it at the top of my head, but I don't know if you do, how many juvenile cases there are. I can easily kind of get that for you, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Just curious as to what that would be. Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, I can ask about that.
Okay.
So as a mental illness, we don't have data necessarily, other than recognizing that it's, as in true in every facet of society, it's become more and more and more of a challenge.
Right.
I know in the court, in the incarcerated defendants, it's quite high in terms of the percentage of people with mental illness.
Right. Yes, and getting higher. Wayne, did you have a question?
So when you say about 100, is that rolling? I assume that, is that the average is at any point in time? Is that like rolling through this, through the year?
Yes, and I'll ask Scott, is that correct, Scott? The census statewide?
Yes, good morning. Scott Griffith, Chief of Planning and Court Services in the Court Administrator's Office. I think the census that we report monthly, Terry, for our adult treatment programs is a little higher than that. Kim can provide specifics, a little higher than 100. In the family treatment docket, we are running about 10 to 12 adults, but of course, the adults who are in those programs have children. And so that number increases when you think about the people who are impacted by the services that are provided through that docket.
Because my thinking is that, you know, at any snapshot in time, there's so many people in there, but if you actually start looking at how many people are impacted in the course of the year or whatever, then that will be more because.
Exactly. Right. If there's a rolling average of 100, it wouldn't necessarily be 5,200 for 52 weeks, but it might be 3,000 or some.
Right. Would Kim have that number, Scott?
No, I see Kim is on the line, and perhaps she can shed some light on that. But you know, these just to be clear, these treatment docket programs are programs in which the participants spend a fair amount of time, upwards of a year, if they move through all of the phases. And, these are intensive programs that focused on the sobriety and the stability of the participants. And yes, the ripple effect and the benefits that accrue not only to the individual, but the people who depend on them are significant.
So in the thousands, it sounds like, over the course of the year.
I think,
Right? Oh, when you take all of your grants.
oh, yes.
Yeah, all of the grants together, of course. Yes, that's right. And
Okay.
yes.
All right. Just trying to get a sense of the general scope. We don't, need to be exact. And so, for all of these, except it looks like one, maybe the burn skip grant, you have a 25% match. If the money were to go away, would you be able to do this in any sort of a reduced capacity, or would you end up just stopping the programs? Or have you thought about that?
Well, in answer to your questions, and Scott can probably best address it, we would have a very limited ability to, operationally, it would be maybe salaries for some of the personnel. But otherwise, for the providers, they'd have to seek it elsewhere. We certainly don't have funds in our budget to pay what these grants are currently paying for.
The 25% state match is generally in-kind salary.
Okay.
So for the most part, that's like managers and supervisors of these programs that are in permanent jobs. And then the providers, contractors, direct service people are limited service positions. Chances are those limited service positions in the contracts would have to be canceled.
Right.
And then the management, obviously we'd have to make decisions about that, but those are general funded positions that go into the state match.
Okay. And you said, so do you have subrecipients of these loans? Do you give
No,
money to provide? You talked about providers.
Yeah, yes, we have some contracts for, like the Howard Center, for example, in Chittenden County.
Okay.
We have some attorneys that are on contract. So there are some contracts in place for personal services.
All right.
The treatment courts are generally considered competitive grants. So we have listed those as kind of a medium risk. And then there are two that are formula grant or block grant, the burn skip mental health grant and the court improvement grant. Block grants that I think we've identified as lower risk.
Okay. And the two on the bottom, the two adult treatment programs, at the moment, they end in 2.5 years, and then the other ones end in 1.5 years.
Right.
That seems to be subject to change. So signed contracts don't seem to matter, but at the moment that's.
Yes. Historically, the treatment court grants, they end, but we then apply for another grant to kick in.
Right.
And that's been the practice.
So are you planning to apply for anything in FY 26?
Yes, Scott, can you address that?
Yes, that's right. The Family Treatment Court grant is set to expire in September of 2025. The solicitations for the next round of funding for the family treatment programs have not been released yet. This is around the time of year when they're released, so applications can be prepared and submitted for funding that would begin at the beginning of the federal fiscal year. And it would be our intent to apply for funding to allow us to continue the Chittenden Family Treatment Docket Program, which again serves adults who are involved in child abuse, cases involving allegations of child abuse and neglect. We don't know when those solicitations will be issued, but it's our intent to apply when they are.
Okay, and this is usually the time of year, so you don't feel like it's late yet coming to you?
It's hard to say. We're very eager So it seems late, but it's not unprecedented for us to be in the middle of April and to not have seen solicitations, and we haven't been updated about when we might expect those.
Okay. Thank you.
And I should just mention for the record that we have requested that the department extend out the family treatment docket grant beyond the September 2025 expiration date that's currently in place, because we do have some surplus funds, but we haven't heard back yet. So right now, we're assuming that that funding will expire at the end of September 2025.
I see. And you have to get permission from the federal government to extend it. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. That's right.
Are you hearing any communications from the federal government at all? Or have you guys been kind of left out of all of that at this point?
We have liaisons who are seeking, there's a National Center for State Courts that's trying to, and Scott has his counterparts in Department of Justice. But no, we have not gotten clarity on any of it. Although we don't feel that any of these, whether it's the treatment courts, mental health, juvenile, have been targeted, for example, or identified as being something that would be subject, but there's just a lot of uncertainty.
Yes. Well, yeah. And at the moment, maybe no news is good news, but it's hard to tell. And I assume you're in touch with your counterparts in other states as well and what they're hearing.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's very helpful. And was there another document that we should be looking at?
The only other document was a similar template, but it was for the indirect interdepartmental transfers. So the indirect federal funding that we receive.
Okay.
And I mentioned the child support, Title 4D is the biggest piece of that. And that would serve, I actually don't have the numbers of cases served by that. I think DCF probably would, but it's probably in the hundreds. It may even reach 1,000.
Yeah. Okay, yep, I'm seeing that. And then the other 3 grants, there's a small one for 12,000.
Yeah, smaller amounts generally for training and awareness type activity. The ADAP or the drug court is 190,000, so it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But it's similar to to treatment court activity.
So it kind of dovetails with the other treatment court work you're doing. And with the other one where you're a subrecipient, what's the 43,000, stop violence against women, crime victim services?
Generally, Scott, maybe you can, I believe that most of training and awareness for identifying victims of violence.
Domestic violence, yes. And that's a larger grant, about $900,000 that comes to Vermont, and I think the Agency of Human Services gets it, and it is managed by the Center for Crime Victim Services. And the courts are required to get 5% of the grant. And so that's not a grant that we apply for. But yes, Greg, you're right. Those funds are used primarily to train judges and staff on issues relating to domestic violence, sexual violence, stalking.
And so you're a subrecipient, and who, somebody at AHS, or where do you get it from?
Yeah, the funds I think come to Vermont and are directed to the Agency of Human Services, but they are managed by, it's my understanding, by the Center for Crime Victim Services.
Okay.
And we work with them on all of the details about the grant, budgeting and reimbursement and what have you.
Okay. Okay. Have you heard of this one, Trevor?
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. Okay.
I did
Yes.
ask, sorry, the number of juvenile cases currently pending, and 1,214.
1,214 cases. And what's go ahead.
So are those Chins cases? Are those criminal?
That's
cases?
combined, Chins, 467 Chins, 747 delinquencies.
747 what?
A delinquent,
Okay.
the category.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry too. Does everybody know what a CHINS
A child in need of
supervision?
supervision.
So what would be an example?
Well, any child that's basically taken into state custody, if you
Okay.
will, and in the juvenile docket.
You seen it, Lou?
Okay. And when you say delinquent, what kind of things are those?
It might be a minor who's charged with a criminal offense, but not in the adult criminal. That was actually part of the raise the age.
Oh, okay, okay.
But they all have a
So we
guardian.
call it delinquent, all right, yeah.
I guess the old term would have been juvenile.
Juvenile delinquent, I remember that
Yeah,
expression and
yeah.
never quite knew what it all meant, so.
But they all have a guardian ad litem.
They do,
And the court improvement grant supports that program.
okay. Yeah, I see things on Front Porch Forum often asking for people to consider being a guardian ad litem. I think it's been a bit of a challenge finding enough adults to do that.
Yes, we have an expert that can.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any questions for judiciary?
We really appreciate you inquiring and because these are critical
Well,
programs.
they are, and we wouldn't know. I mean, this is, I'm learning a lot. We haven't had many folks come in, but to know that you're also subrecipients of other things from other agencies and I just think it's good for us to really understand the landscape and, you know, it's $1.5 million in the other section. And maybe that, you know, affects a lot of people. And when we think about if we're going to have to try to backfill anything, where can we have the most impact? And, you know, who is most harmed and how are they harmed by
Page
any grants?
193 fiscal
So,
year 2026 appropriations.
So that's sort of what we also want to get a sense of, because we'll never have enough funds to backfill everything. And so understanding who is harmed is important.
And if we learn anything, if we get any clarity on
Yeah.
these, should we let you?
Feel free to let us know, or, you know, Trevor's your liaison, so, you know, connecting with him. We also let Martin know, you know, we're letting the committees know that we're having, they all are aware that folks are coming in to talk to us about this, so they'll either watch this later or, you know, anyway, they're well aware of what's happening.
We'll be sure to Trevor then.
So if you know anything, sure, just have Trevor get
Okay.
updated on it, so we have a point person for that. So anyway, it's all very sobering. Thank you for all the work you're doing. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you all. My goodness,
It's
just when you thought things would get more chaotic.
every day, every moment is different. So anyway, thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you. Hey, thanks. So committee, we are on a little bit of a break for 2 hours. Tourism is here if you need to see people. So at 11:30, we have a bill. We're gonna vote on a bill. It's the medical debt bill. And so Ledge Council and Jen Carby from Ledge Council, Nolan from JFO, and then Treasurer Pichek or somebody from his office will be here at 11:30. We will run through the bill and we're going to vote then. So we're going to vote before lunch. We need to get it out today. Is Lynn on right now? Okay. So assuming Lynn's not back, Mike Nigro has graciously volunteered again, been volunteered and accepted to take that on. So he'll report on that. And if you have, so take a look at the bill if you want. If you have questions, as I said, it came out 11-0 out of healthcare. So if you have friends on healthcare and want to ask them about it, they're the ones that went into depth on it. So, okay.